a good friend of mine from Northern California, Sacramento. She's one of the best lobbyists I've ever seen, and she works on some really, really tough issues having to do with hunger and poverty as an advocate for the Western Center on Law and Poverty. So we're pleased to have with us today my good friend and a really stellar advocate, Jessica Bartholow. Jessica, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Ernie, for having me.
So pleased to have you. And once again, this is our Easter edition, so happy Easter to you and your family, of course. So let's start with the kind of work that you do. Tell us about the Western Center on Law and Poverty.
The Western Center on Law and Poverty is a statewide organization. We work with legal services throughout the state to represent low-income people and help to protect their rights to basic needs help, and including health, food, housing.
And just, with so much wealth and affluence in this country, why are so many Americans going to bed hungry?
Well, here in California and throughout the state, or throughout the nation, we've been seeing more people who have no jobs or are going with very small wages. Right, poverty has increased tremendously over the last couple of years, and poverty is the number one reason that we have hunger, obviously, and joblessness is a big contributor to that. In California, we still have joblessness rates at about 10%, just under 10%, and even though we are getting some jobs back, those jobs are low paying, and we've, during the recession, cut assistance to low-wage households, removed slots for child care, for example, removed assistance for low-income families who are working and have low wages through our TANF program, our Temporary Aid to Needy Families program. So both because of the recession, but also because of the austerity measures here in California and throughout the state, we are seeing increased hardship. And what that means for people is that kids are going to bed hungry, parents are having to make hard choices, and many more people are going without housing and other basic needs.
So what is the work that you do day to day in Sacramento? What do you fight for? What are the issues you're taking on? Tell us about your day-to-day work.
Well, I'd love to tell you about what we're doing today. A lot of people think about jobs being Monday through Friday, but as you know, Ernie, when you're doing this work, it's not just a job; it is a life commitment to justice. And for me, it's a commitment to reducing poverty and the impact of poverty. So today, I'm here meeting with a number of advocates who are putting our heads together about the Homeless Bill of Rights. It's a bill that we have here in California. There are about 5 other states that are seeking to implement or consider a Bill of Rights that would protect people who have no homes from being criminalized for not having a home. Just a couple of months ago, a gentleman in San Francisco faced 2 years in prison for being arrested because he was sitting on the sidewalk.
Sitting on the sidewalk.
Yeah, go ahead. Sitting on the sidewalk. That's right. We see a lot of municipalities. They're struggling with what to do with increased homelessness and housing and lack of housing, and as a result, unfortunately, the response that some municipalities have is to implement policies against sitting or sleeping or lying on the sidewalk. When really, what we know that the answer to homelessness is to create housing and affordable housing.
Well, so I know you're involved in another interesting policy project. I believe it's called the Contract for a Prosperous America. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, the Plan for a Broad Prosperity. That's right. So here in California and throughout the nation, people who've been working on anti-poverty measures have been struggling for a couple of years with the austerity measures in states and across the country and in D.C. It's been really frustrating over time to mobilize and continue the energy around a message that says don't cut. A number of organizations, ourselves, and across the spectrum have gotten behind a vision that we need to be more fair in how we establish our budget. Our budget is it is a value statement, and we've been able to get behind a vision for being balanced. But we want to be able to have more than that. We want to be able to say, look, don't cut, and here are the ways that we can actually grow a broad prosperity for all Americans. So we've reached out to allies across the country and in D.C. to help us frame out what that would be. And they're things that all Americans can get behind, right? We want to be able to make sure that somebody who's working makes enough money so that their kids don't have to go hungry that night. We want to make sure that when families are at work, that their children are safe in child care settings, in their communities where that they can afford. Right now, according to the Food Research and Action Center, low-income working families are paying more for child care than they can pay for their monthly food bill, and therefore they're going hungry. We want to establish the right for all workers to have paid sick leave, and to be able to leave work to take care of themselves or their family members when there's an illness.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what are the various groups and coalition partners that are engaged in this effort?
Well, right now we're reaching out to, like I said, about 30 kind of organizations to help us think through what are the first asks that we're going to make, the first kind of level setting that we all agree are things that we need to have to make sure we're leaning towards a broad prosperity for everyone. So I can't name names yet, but there are a number of organizations that are kind of editing and talking and coalescing around what this would mean to have a plan that we could all agree on across issue area. I think right now you do see many organizations kind of saying, well, we're housing advocates, but we're also child care advocates, because we know that families are kind of caught in between, and they're working across issue areas. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is to create and strengthen dialogue across issue areas so that we're talking about people, not programs. And I think that if people across the country can engage in this dialogue to talk about people and what we all desire for ourselves and our family and our country, we can get behind something that many people believe in. And that's the goal.
So let me shift the discussion just a little bit, because, as you know, the show is sponsored by the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, and our concerns have to do with all Americans, but especially with older Americans, because that's our membership. Tell us about poverty and hunger for older Americans. Is it getting worse?
Well, I mean, you certainly see an increase in the numbers of older Americans, right? And because of that, because of the recession and the amount that people have had to pull out of their pockets and their savings to make ends meet over the last couple of years, I think if we're not seeing the increase in hunger and poverty yet, we will soon. In California, among those who were most likely to be unemployed for long periods of time following the recession, they were people who were just entering their late 50s. So those households are least likely to be able to get that call back for employment as the economy gets back on its feet, and they're most likely to have spent down their resources, their reserves, and look forward to, unfortunately, a very difficult very difficult years as seniors. Here in California, we have about as many as 320,000 seniors who are receiving food stamps or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, for example.
So how do people get involved in your work? How do they find out what you're doing? How do they help?
Right. So our website is wclp.org. That's Western Center on Law and Poverty.org. And they can go there to see the kinds of legislation that we're working on and learn about legislation in Sacramento and some of our asks for the D.C. legislators. There are a number of organizations that we work with across the country as well, including yours, but also the Food Research and Action Center and the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And on our homeless advocacy work, we're working with the Western Regional Advocacy Project. RAP Home is their website, .org.
Say that again. Say that again, please.
Sure. Western Regional Advocacy Project.
Okay.
RAP, W-R-A-P,
right.
Home.org. And people can learn about the Homeless Bill of Rights there. And it's happening, like as I said, here in California, also in Oregon, and a couple other states.
So the Homeless Bill of Rights and a number of other good things that you're doing in your day-to-day lobbying and also your public advocacy work in California. I appreciate the time you spend with me. I know how busy you are, and I want to wish you the best and just say that I know how committed you are to your work, and thank you for the contributions you make to our collective efforts to make this a more humane society, Jessica.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you for your work as well. And happy Easter and happy Cesar Chavez birthday. Exactly.
Back to you. Happy Easter, my friend, and happy Cesar Chavez birthday. This is the Grassroots Corner. This is Ernie Powell.